Okay, so once I have finished with my contour line drawing of my animal in pencil, so you can see here's my llama photo and my llama drawing. I'm just going to double check to make sure that things look accurate before I ink over it. So I'm just going to kind of see, like, my nose and my eye are lined up in the photo. My nose and my eye are lined up in the drawing. My ear is closer to my nose than it is to my eye. So I'm going to look for those sorts of things before I ink over my drawing. Then I'm going to take one of the pens at the table, and I am simply going to trace over all of my lines. All right, so I'm going to trace my lines all the way around my drawing. I'm not going to trace all of these because you guys can figure that out, right? After I've traced my lines, what I'm going to do is erase all the pencil lines that are left over. So nothing will be colored in. The only exception to that is like around the eye. So I can find like the pupil on my animal, and I can go ahead and I can take my pen and I can color that spot in. Just because the eyes look a little weird if we leave them open and all the way white. So it would be the only part of your animal that you could go ahead and color in. You can play around a little bit with having some darker or thicker line areas. So I could kind of make my outer edges of my eye a little heavier, just because, like, if I look in my image, you know, he looks like he's got like some shadows around his eye. So I could work on like line quality, but I don't want to color anything else in. All right, so then what I'm going to do after I've outlined everything, so you're going to pretend I've outlined everything and I've erased my pencil lines. I'm just going to use my pen and I'm going to start working on my background. Now, the point of the background is to have consistent pattern. So maybe you guys have heard of something called Zentangles, where we make pattern. They're basically fancy doodles. And so I'm just going to pick a spot to start, and I'm just going to kind of invent something. My easiest thing to start with is always some circles, just because it kind of gets my mind thinking. You have some design sheets at your table that you can use if you want. What we're doing is we're making sure that we don't have spaces bigger than the end of our finger. So my shapes shouldn't be bigger than my finger, and the spaces between my shapes shouldn't be bigger than my finger. And then I also want to make sure that my shapes change as they go through the background. So I don't want to have the same shape be all over the place. I'm going to make sure that I'm thinking about changing up my pattern in my design. So you can see I did a couple of rows of dots. I'll probably go back and do more dots. Now I'm just sort of playing around with some wiggly lines. So notice over here my wiggly lines, I can pull my finger through those. So that means that those wiggly lines are going to need another pattern inside of them. I cannot leave this big a space in my design. So I'm going to have to go back and fill that in. I will also have to make sure that my design has a combination of things that just have stripes so that they feel gray. So you can see I can add some lines here to some of my sections of these wiggle lines that I made. And some sections that are filled in. So you can see I've kind of filled in some of my dots. So we want that sensation of white, black, and gray throughout the background designs. So that's your job today, is to finish your animal, ink it over, and then to go ahead and start working on the background using just your pen.